daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome, wherever you are in the world. A very warm welcome to Global Sports Podcast Network Towers, and welcome in particular to the Daily Premier League podcast. It's Saturday, the 18th of October. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. It still feels a little bit dark outside as we enter the autumn and winter season, but the international break is over. It's back to the action. It's back to the cut and thrust, the success and the disappointment. It's back to the heroes and villains of the Premier League. And you are listening, of course, to the Daily Premier League podcast, part of the Global Sports Podcast Network. My name's Ken Davis. His name is Nick Britton. And we're here every day to bring you everything that's going on in the best league in the world. Nick, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing very well, thank you very much. I'm about to jump on a train to London, have a good day out in London, so I'm looking forward to that.
Ooh, lovely. Any football involved?
No football involved. The odd beer, perhaps. We shall see.
No doubt about it. I was down there Wednesday. I did exactly the same thing. So enjoy yourself in London. Now, we like to keep things fairly light on the Daily Premier League podcast. You'll have noticed that we have fun, we have banter, we have little disagreements, but we're friends who love each other. But sometimes you got to deal with chewier issues than that. Sometimes you got to deal with issues which are, we don't want to deal with, but we have to deal with and we have to talk about because they're unpleasant and they're things that detract from the beautiful game, and they need to be aired openly. And there's three things we want to talk about today, but the first one definitely falls into that category. It's we never really like it when politics and sport intermingle, but we cannot walk away from the fact we have this terrible situation developing in relation to whether Maccabi Tel Aviv supporters from Israel are going to be able to visit and watch and support their team when they play Aston Villa in Birmingham in the European competitions. So that's what a developing story in the UK very much, and we need to talk about it because it's a big issue. Nick, give me your take. I'll give you my take, and we'll see what the general view is on this situation.
I feel that this is a seminal moment in a lot of ways. We've seen a lot of. Well, let's deal with the first thing first. This has been mooted on the grounds of safety. And if you look at the Aston Villa statement, it's saying that West Midlands have advised the Safety Advisory Group, which is a kind of collection of stakeholders around each city that advises on safety ahead of a football match, have formally written to the club to advise that no away fans will be permitted. And they're saying they have public safety concerns outside the stadium bowl and the ability to deal with any potential protests on the night. So the curtain that they are hiding behind on this is safety. And there is precedent. Away fans have been banned from games before. That's not an entirely new thing. But nobody really thinks or believes this is about safety. This is tapping into the continued rise of anti-Semitism in the UK. And it's a very, very worrying moment because we've seen so much of it in the last couple of years. We've seen this allowed to fester and allowed to rise unhindered. Politicians haven't been interested. The police haven't been interested. They've allowed in London these hate marches to take place every single Saturday. And that has fostered and emboldened those who believe in anti-Semitism. And then as a result of that emboldenment, we're seeing more and more of it come out. We've seen a horrendous murder of Jews a couple of weeks ago in Manchester. And now we've got this situation whereby under quite a strong protest, we believe, it's been reported from the Muslim lobby in Birmingham. And of course, Birmingham is a very, very pro-Palestinian, very Muslim-dominated area. Well, not dominated, but it's got a very heavy Muslim population in there, and particularly around Villa Park. So what we're left with is a very worrying situation where, for what very much appears for political reasons, football fans are not being allowed to attend a game. And the question is, where does this leave us? Where does this lead to if this ban stays in place? Are we now to say that certain groups of society, and bear in mind Britain is supposed to be an open, democratic and loving country. We are, we are meant to open our arms to all societies. We're meant to be tolerant. It doesn't feel like it at the moment, I can tell you that. Where does this leave us? Are certain groups not allowed to attend football in the future? Are certain groups going to be told to stay away from places because their safety cannot be guaranteed by the police, whose job it is to keep us safe? Birmingham Police, West Midlands Police, as they are, have policed much, much, much bigger and more dangerous games than Aston Villa versus Maccabi Tel Aviv in the Premier League. In the Champions League. There have been much bigger games they've had to deal with in the past. Don't forget the Villa Park itself has been a ground that's hosted FA Cup semi-finals going back in the days of rampant hooliganism. It's hosted European games. It's due to host, by the way, games during the European Championship. If this ban goes ahead, are we now to say, well, we can't host games during the European Championship because we've got to be worried about the safety of supporters? Where does this take us as a country to say that we're going to ghettoise Jewish people now and say, right, you've got to stay in this place, you're not allowed out, and you're not allowed to go about your daily lives, you're not allowed to go to football games because we can't protect you?
Yeah, it's a horrible step down a very slippery slope. I think we'd all agree with that. I think there's a couple of points I'd like to add to that, because clearly there's a nasty aspect to what we've seen over the course of the last couple of years in relation to, of course, it's been an extremely distressing situation with Israel and Palestine and Gaza. Can't disagree with that. There has been legitimate political unhappiness and protest about that, and rightly so, because people are allowed to do that. The thing to me, though, is that this comes at exactly the wrong time, because we've just seen a de-escalation of the situation in relation to Gaza with the peace deal that seems to be holding, seems to have resulted in the saving of lives on both sides, seems to have resulted in the return of captured, of prisoners, of hostages. It seems to be a situation which everyone in the world has an interest in de-escalating. And that's a great thing to see, because it needed it. This seems to be counter against that, in the sense of what we're saying at this point in time is that certain people, certain teams, certain countries are not welcome. And one of the things that confuses me is, on what basis do they think that the Maccabi Tel Aviv supporters are going to cause trouble? Do they think, or actually, is this being done under the pretext of protecting Maccabi Tel Aviv supporters? And if so, nobody seemed to have asked them whether they wanted protecting. So ultimately, I think clearly it's a political thing. Clearly there's a lot of pressure being applied, I think, in Birmingham by certain factions to make sure that doesn't take place. I'm glad to see Keir Starmer, Prime Minister of the UK, has waded in with this and saying, no, that's not acceptable. We need to try and solve this situation. Go on, Nick, you're about to come in.
Well, you are, until it turns out that the Home Office and the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, who is also a Birmingham MP, knew about this 9 days ago and said nothing. She knew. Well, she didn't know about the final decision, but she knew there was serious consideration 9 days ago of away fans being banned, the Tel Aviv fans being banned, and said and did nothing.
Yep. So, as far as we're concerned, it's just the latest step in this creep of anti-Semitism that we've seen happen in the course of the last couple of years. Whether you agree or you disagree with what's happening in Gaza, what's happening in Israel, there's no place for it. It's going back to Germany of the 1930s by stealth. And you might think that's an over-exaggeration. It's not.
I don't think it is.
What happened in the 1930s happened in tiny little steps and tiny little tiny little changes to people's belief systems and tiny little changes as to what they consider to be acceptable. It's not acceptable that football fans from certain countries are not allowed to come because we don't agree with the politics of those particular countries. Even in the height of apartheid in South Africa, even when we banned South Africa from sports, we didn't ban South African people from going to sport. This is way, way, way too big a step. Birmingham need to reassess themselves. And just a final point on this, which I just want to bring you in on again, Nick, is if they go ahead with this, if Birmingham say, no, we're not allowing any Israelis, any Jewish people in the city to support their football team, I mean, what sanctions should apply to Birmingham?
Well, I'll come back to that in a minute. I think the important thing is that, and criticise certainly the Home Secretary for sitting on this, essentially, for several days. I mean, it is good to see the government have got involved. It's good to see that this is now being discussed at the top level. And actually, now that it is being discussed with politicians being involved, i.e. the Prime Minister, I think this decision will be reversed. I think it will change, because I don't think the police will be left with any choice.
Good.
Although the government is not meant to have any influence over policing. Well, others clearly have had influence over policing in the fact there's decisions being made in the first place. But I think it will be overturned. However, I think Birmingham's got to take a good long look at itself, because if the police there, this is meant to be England's second city. It's meant to be England's second city. It's in a state of general disrepair anyway. There's been a bin strike going on for several months now. There's rubbish piling up all over the streets. I was in the city centre about a month ago when I went to watch the England-Andorra game. It's an absolute mess. It's not really a place that looks very welcoming or very nice. They've got big problems to sort out themselves without having to deal with this. I think that the FA and other football authorities should be looking very carefully at whether Birmingham should host these big football games going forward. If this decision stays, I think it's a very easy decision to say that Birmingham should never, ever host another major football game again, because if they can't protect supporters, presumably, let's pretend for a moment that this is nothing to do with Jewish people. Let's pretend it is just down to safety of supporters. Well, if they can't protect a few hundred, because there's not going to be a massive crowd there, then what are they going to do when Villa play Birmingham again? What are they going to do when Tottenham, who have a very strong Jewish support base? What are they going to do when Tottenham go to Villa Park? Are they going to say they can't come? What are they going to do when Poland or some of the Eastern European countries who've got horrendous record of violence supporters are going to say they're not going to come? Mm. I've never seen this before. I've never, ever seen this. Has never happened.
It's a bit of a coincidence, isn't it? It's a bit of a coincidence that this safety issue just happens to be when an Israeli team is due to play in Birmingham. Well, we've got to move on. It's a distressing situation. It's one that we've got very strong views about. It's one that we both agree on, which is a rarity around it. But it's something that the government needs to step in, resolve, and bang a few heads together in the nicest possible way. So, right. And by the way, just before we finish on that, it's important to say this is not Villa's fault. There's no blame attached to Villa here. This is the fault of the city of Birmingham.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. No, there's no blame on Villa. They're the sort of innocent victims. Them and their supporters are the very innocent victims who've been caught in this horrendous crossfire. But let's not be under any doubt. This is a massive moment, I think, in the UK's ability to stand up for itself and to remain a tolerant country. Because if you allow this kind of thing to fester, and you've said it just a moment ago, if you allow anti-Semitism and bigotry and racism, all you do is embolden bigotry, anti-Semitism and racism, and it will just get worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, here. Okay. Well, as we know in football, as Keir Starmer knows, it pays to get your team selection right. I'm not sure he's got that right at the moment. Here at Global Sports Podcast Network, we spend a lot of time selecting our delivery partner. We chose Zencastr. Zencastr makes it easy to bring your vision to life, share it with your audience wherever they may be. It's got 4K video recording. It's got very easy AI editing tools and top-tier distribution. And it's all in one place. So it's a very easy system to use. So if you've got a story to tell it with Zencastr. Check the show notes. You'll find all the details you need to know right there.
Your Daily Soccer Podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.
Right, part two of a very interesting episode. Hope you'll agree. All a very warm welcome, by the way, to all our listeners in the United States. It's very good to have you along. We are going out on the System Hooligan Network in great name, Hooligan Sports in America. So there'll be a lot and lots and lots of Americans listening to this now who may not have encountered us before. My name's Ken Davis. His name is Nick Britton. We bring you everything you will ever need to know about the Premier League on a daily basis. You can reach us, by the way, if you want to do that, by email, dailypremierleaguepodcast@gmail.com. That'll get to us. We like receiving messages and thoughts, and we're probably going to receive a few after this episode. And it's great to have you along, and we'll make sure that we cover those thoughts and messages in a later podcast. Now, the second thing I want to talk about today is I love a diatribe. I love a monologue. And Ange Postacoglu, my favourite Australian football manager, went on a 6-minute, I got the word rant. It wasn't a rant, actually. It was a rather brilliant, I thought, defence of his track record. If Ange Postacoglu was the lawyer and I'd committed a heinous crime, I was on trial for murder, I'd want Ange walking in the room as my defence lawyer. It was a fascinating 6 minutes, uninterrupted, unscripted defence of his track record. Brilliant. There are a number of points I wanted to bring out from it, which I want to discuss. But Nick, what was your overall take on it?
Just box office. It's proper box office. And one of the great reasons, and there are many reasons why Ange cannot get sacked at Forest, is because we can't lose this out of the Premier League. No. He's such good value. He is such good value. And we were talking off air, weren't we, about about the fact he spends all his time saying, I don't care what people think about me. And then all the rest of his other time saying, defending himself and talking about himself.
Yeah.
I'm drawn
mismatch there, isn't there?
Yeah, I'm drawn to Shakespeare's Hamlet in this, and Queen Gertrude, and the very famous line, "Methinks the lady doth protest too much," and I think that's Ange all over, isn't it?
It is. I reckon if you sat down with a psychoanalyst, I think the conclusion would be by the psychoanalyst, "Who are you kidding? Who are you trying to kid, Ange? If you really care, if you really don't care, then don't care." We're getting a lot of mixed messages here, but it was brilliant. Anyway, it's brilliant. So there's 4 points I want to bring out that I picked out of this, but there's probably 12, but we haven't got that long. The first thing I noticed was this note that he hadn't spoken to Marinakis throughout the international break. Now, that's a red flag for me. We know what Marinakis is like, and we know there's actually somebody in the middle who I guess is the direct report for Ange. But it just, given the situation Forest find themselves in, given the fact that Ange felt the need to do this, wouldn't it be a sensible thing for Marinakis to put his arm around his shoulder and say, "Hey, fellow Greek to Greek, it's going to be okay"?
Why would they be saying that in an Italian accent, though?
They're in Rome while they're doing it. It's picked up their local accent.
This kind of has shadows and echoes of Nuno's press conference when he talked himself out of a job only a few weeks ago, doesn't it?
Yeah.
No, don't speak to the chairman. No, all this kind of stuff. Now we know. Obviously, one of the reasons that Nuno was unhappy was because Edu arrived as global head of football, and that cut off the communication chain between manager and chairman. But this is a little bit different because Marinakis was handpicked. He's handpicked Postacoglu. He made a big say about the Greek heritage and all that kind of stuff and how much he admires him and all of that. So the fact they've had no conversation over 2 weeks is absolutely staggering. And it probably tells you what, listen, as you know, Ken, and as all listeners to the Daily Premier League podcast know, I've been doing my very, very best to defend Ange and make the point that he needs time. He's having to change a complete culture at a football club. He's having to change a total team ethic and team way of playing. And you can't do that overnight. You can't do it in a matter of games. But when all this sort of stuff that off the pitch starts swilling around, and all these kind of comments start being made. And when you hear him say what he said, he almost feels like he knows the writing is on the wall, just like Nuno, exactly like Nuno did a few weeks ago. He knows the writing's on the wall, and he's getting his defence in first.
I agree with that. He cut a rather lonely figure, I thought,
that's his shtick, isn't it? That's what he does. He kind of plays the victim. He likes this. He likes this kind of scenario where he paints himself as the victim. He paints himself as the outlier. He paints himself as the only one who's different, and then comes out fighting. That's what he does. That's what he's always done.
Which I love. I love the pugilist in him. I love his pugnacious attitude. I love the fact that he'll take reporters on, and he just doesn't give the normal coach speak. He talks like a human being about his failings and his successes, and I love all that about him. In fact, I'm a big fan of Ange Postacoglu. I do like him. I'm not a great fan. I don't particularly rate Marinakis. I don't trust Marinakis. I've not seen anything to rate Edu. And, I'd like to see him. I'd like to see both of those people coming out a little bit more and saying, no, we've made our choice. We understand the vision. We understand what we're trying to achieve here with Postacoglu. There's no issue. There's no pressure. He's got as long as he wants. There's none of that. And I just think it's falling apart again. The wheel's coming off again.
It is. It's starting to feel like it now. And Marinakis, much like Postacoglu, is a renegade. He's an outlier. Yeah. He's not your usual football chairman. And he's very, very unpredictable. Very unpredictable. So we don't know. I mean, look, the fact that Ange is still there today as Forest head into the game against Chelsea, I think surprised you. I think you were expecting him to get in the chop, weren't you, during the international break? But we're now back in that territory that we get with managers where next game. We've been with Amorim on this for quite a long time. Oh, he'll lose his job in the next game. So I don't know. But I mean, he said yesterday, didn't he? Well, he was asked a very obvious question. It is always going to be the first question in the press release. How are you feeling? You haven't won a game. Do you feel like you're under pressure? That's the most bog standard, quite boring question any journalist could ask. And it just sparked this extraordinary, as you say, monologue where he started from, well, I guess from my perspective, I just don't fit, not here, just in general. So he's kind of already, as I said, he's painting himself as this kind of victim in all of this, and that he's different to everybody else.
It was like he was in therapy. It's like
it felt like that, didn't it? It felt like that.
Yeah. He was just like, oh, just tell us how you feel. How does that make you feel, Ange? And like, how it all comes.
I think we know how it makes him feel.
Yeah, we're very clear now how he feels about it. There's a couple of other things I just want to touch on, which I thought was quite entertaining. He talked about his Tottenham days and that amazing thing, and I'm really interested to be on this, where when he's being interviewed for the Tottenham job, he said he was told, well, we tried winners. We tried to bring in winners like Mourinho and Conte, and that didn't really work for us. So we thought we might try you, Ange, which is obviously implying that you ain't a winner, Ange. We've tried the winner thing. That doesn't work. We thought we'd try a non-winner this time. He was obviously a little bit insulted by that. Who wouldn't be? That's a bit unfair on Ange, isn't it?
I find that, I have to say, I mean, I don't know whether he's reworking history, because it doesn't sound to me like the sort of thing that Daniel Levy would say. And I wonder if this is Ange's, A, his interpretation of it in hindsight, and B, his... That just sort of plays into his narrative that we've just been talking about.
Yeah.
Victim mentality, isn't it? The reality is he has won stuff wherever he's gone.
Yeah.
He's won trophies wherever he's gone. So, yes, he hasn't won them on the level that Jose Mourinho or Antonio Conte has. Let's be frank. But he's won stuff wherever he's gone. And so I don't know. I think this is a bit of retelling of history here. That suits him.
And that can happen. If you retell a story so many times, he's probably has in his head millions of times, the reality changes a bit. The baseline for what actually happened just moves slightly. It happens in every walk of life. That might be happening here. Now, just the other thing I just picked up on now, and I have to say, you pointed this out ages ago. Obviously, finished 17th last year, but they won the Europa League. And essentially what Ange was saying yesterday is, we won the Europa League because we finished 17th, because I took the team sheets and ripped them up and saved our best players for Europa League games, and look at our team sheets for the last 6 or 7 games, it's obvious what I was trying to do, because I was told I had to deliver a trophy. And guess what? I prioritised delivering a trophy because that's in my job description. And okay, the cost of that was not finishing 14th, was finishing 17th. It was a price I was prepared to pay. I did it. I delivered what I was asked to deliver, but then I got sacked. So, I mean, you did point out that was what was happening at the time. Is that a reasonable defence on Ange's part, do you think?
In a way, yes. In a way, because if his mission was to win a trophy, whether that's his mission or the club's mission, because we know he's got this "I always win a trophy in my second season" shtick about him. If that was his mission, then he succeeded. However, nobody expects to see Tottenham at 17th in the league, and I wonder whether other teams who have won other European competitions have simply abandoned the league in the way that he has, and they haven't. If they'd won the last couple of games and finished like 12th or 13th, we'd never be having this conversation at all. We just wouldn't, and it only rested on a couple of games. But it was very obvious going into kind of the latter part of the season, so the last maybe 2 or 3 months, that he had abandoned the league. Look at the team sheets, look at the way they were playing, look at the way they approached games, and it was obvious what was happening. And I think, I'm sure he'd said it at some stage as well after the season. So, look, would Tottenham fans have rather finished 10th and not won the trophy? Or would they rather finish 17th and won the Europa League? I say the latter without a shadow of a doubt. And the fact he was sacked didn't surprise me at all, because the reality was that even though he won the Europa League, it was a really poor competition, and they faced the worst Manchester United side in history in the final. And if you wanted to repeat that cycle and go again, well, what we know this season already, the Premier League is stronger. So Spurs of last season will be struggling in this season's Premier League big time. And there's absolutely no guarantee that you're going to have the run that you had in the Europa League again. So I can and let's face it, the Premier League, yes, it's great to win a trophy, but for the money men and the chairman, the Premier League is all about qualifying for Europe, because that's where the money is, and finishing high up the league. So I can see why he got sacked, but I can also see that he's got justification in saying, look, I did what I was brought to do.
Yeah, it's a really interesting debate, actually. I have to say, I imagine if you're the chairman of Spurs and you look at the table today, you probably feel justified. I'm sitting, I think, in third place. Now, just going back to Forest and Ange, though, close this one off. I mean, I was reading a BBC article, credit where credit's due. According to that, Forest are seriously assessing their options right now, and have been during the international break. I mean, where does this leave Forest? I mean, if this continues, or if they get rid of Ange, who are the potentials for Forest, and ultimately, what's the end game here? Where does this take them?
Well, football is littered, isn't it, with clubs who make rash decisions and then suffer the consequences later. So, what's the thing? Repent at leisure.
Yeah.
Act in haste, repent at leisure. That's the phrase. And this seems to be very much the case of Forest, because they've acted in haste in getting rid of Nuno, who took them to Europe last season, arguably Forest's most successful manager since Brian Clough, got rid of him. Now, we don't feel, and we've talked about this a lot, we don't feel it was a merciless axing. We felt that Nuno was engineering his own way out anyway. But nonetheless, they got rid of him, bought in Ange, and they find themselves, on the back of a run of 9 games in all competitions now that he's been in charge of, and haven't won a single one of them. They are perilously just above the relegation zone, and facing the potential of having to bring somebody else in, a third manager, in 3 months, unless Marinakis takes the view that actually, no, I'm going to give this guy time. So we'll have to see what happens. But reports surfacing over the last couple of weeks during the international break that Marco Silva is being talked about, Sean Dyche is being talked about, a manager with, quote, pragmatic football at his heart, unquote. Oh, hello, that'll be Nuno then, will it? So they look an absolute mess. The whole thing just looks a complete shambles. And normally when this happens, particularly in a club like, they're not a massive club, Forest, despite what their fans might think after one decent season on the back of 30 not decent seasons. They're not a massive club. They're not immune to the problems that every other club is in the Premier League. And if this merry-go-round carries on, then quite realistically, the only place it will finish is the Championship.
Food for thought. Marinakis. Think on. Right, Global Sports Podcast Network is partnered with Bionique, the world's most personalised supplements, because your body is unique. And because without knowing what deficiencies you have, if you take off-the-shelf supplements, well, it might mean you're not getting enough of the nutrients you need. You may be getting too many of the ones you don't need. Bionique provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right level. So why don't you go onto the show notes? You can use the code GSPN 2025. You'll get 40% off your order.
Your daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.
Right, we've slightly run over time on this one because we've been talking about two very, very interesting developing stories. Just a quick other developing story that we've kind of mentioned a couple of times, so we should just polish off with this. Enzo Maresca come out and said Cole Palmer of Chelsea likely to be another 6 weeks with this groin injury. Thomas Tuchel raised this issue the other day because he was saying it had all the hallmarks of being a chronic injury rather than a temporary one. He's only played 3 Premier League games so far this season. You've got thoughts, I know, on the importance of Palmer to Chelsea. Obviously, Forest play Chelsea today. What's your thoughts on this news?
I think Chelsea are as close to being a one-man team without being a one-man team. And Cole Palmer
two-man
is
team. Caicedo.
Caicedo's fair. But Palmer, you're right, absolutely right, actually fair. Caicedo's a terrific player. But Palmer's the one at the top end of the pitch that makes them tick. And it's notable that in his absence, when he doesn't play, they're a lot worse than when he does play. When he does play, they're a lot better than when he doesn't. And this is very worrying news for both Cole Palmer and for Chelsea. Obviously, we've got the World Cup now starting to loom large in our thinking.
He's running out of time, isn't he? He's running out of time.
Yeah, he's right. He is. Yeah, absolutely he is. Because, and we talked about this the other day, didn't we? That Thomas Tuchel seems to have settled on the vast majority of his squad already, and Palmer isn't going to be in it. Even if he gets fit, he needs to get fit and get fit quickly, and that just doesn't look like it's going to happen at all. So, and so it's bad news for him, and it's bad news for Chelsea because he's a brilliant player. Yeah, he's a brilliant player, and he makes it happen at the top end of the pitch for them. So,
yeah, one of the things I just wanted to raise on this, which is a bit of a side issue, but interesting thoughts on. Obviously, this injury emerged during the shortened pre-season after the Club World Cup campaign. Is this actually the price that Chelsea are paying for overloading their season last year with the Club World Cup? They went all the way in that. They won it, of course. Very little rest period after in terms of get right time and pre-season. He gets himself a bit of a stretch, a bit of a strain, obviously, in that time. And here we are, 4 months later, and he's not probably going to play the rest of this year or something like that. I mean, is this the price they're paying for just overloading the demands on their players?
Well, possibly yes, possibly no, because we don't know whether this is a direct result of what happened at the Club World Cup. But it does speak into a growing narrative, and we've heard quite a lot about this over the summer, a growing narrative of footballers becoming, all around the world, this is not a UK thing, it's not a Premier League thing, it's footballers all around the world complaining of the amount of football they're having to play in the summer and not getting any time off and injuries and tiredness and ineffectiveness and all of those kind of things. So, yes, it does play into that, very much so. But clubs also have got to take responsibility because, all right, you've got things like the Club World Cup, which is a very financially rewarding competition to play in. It's not profile-wise because nobody cared about it, but financially it's very rewarding. But clubs have also got to look at this and go, right, well, next time we get an international break or a break, let's not take our entire squad off on a money-spinning tour of Asia or Australia. Let's allow our players to rest. So this should send this injury and these type of injuries should send warning signs to clubs right across the world to say, look at this and go, right, is this a result of overplaying?
It's something that certainly occurred to me at the time. And anyway, it's an interesting thought and a story I would imagine I could see developing over the course of the next few months. Right, that's it. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Thank you, Nick, for your reasoned and intellectual and all-round smart answers during the course of this podcast.
That's the nicest thing you've ever said to me, Ken.
Yeah, I don't know what came over me there. But anyway, it was very interesting. Enjoy your day in London. Enjoy your matches wherever you are. We feel for you, Forest fans, even though we're kind of semi-Derby fans.
I've got Forest down for a win today, as you well know. It's after all of this and everything we talked about, it'd be very Ange to go out and win this game.
It would. A proper 3-0. Anyway, enjoy the Saturday. Football is back. That's a great thing. Whether you suffer disappointment, whether you suffer or enjoy success, have a great one. And we'll see you again tomorrow.
Your daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.